Detroit Den 313. And that's right, we are back. Stephen Will, you are looking at a marvel in its medical history. Steve has made it back.
Don't make me laugh. It hurts.
But before we get going, hit that subscribe button. Don't forget to hit that bell icon so you don't miss any of our new content. Steve, give the people what they want to know.
I've always said that I would be talking Detroit Lions on my deathbed, and I'm damn near there. Guys, I'm battle tested. Had surgery yesterday, but I just got Detroit Lions on my mind. Hopefully you guys can appreciate that. Hit that subscribe button. Help your boy out, because I'm not in pain. I'm in extreme discomfort. Some subscribers would really help me out. But we're going to talk some draft prospects today. You know, it's that time of the year where it's what we got to do. We're not doing mock drafts. We're just kind of taking a couple kids in college, seeing who fits our needs, where we would draft them. Are they first round picks, second round picks? So we got some guards today that we're going to talk about. Not a sexy position, not anything that you fantasy footballers are probably going to enjoy, because we're talking about the trenches. But this is a position that the Detroit Lions need. We're expecting Jonah Jackson to be gone. Graham Glasgow is probably going to be re-signed, we hope. But we need a guard, maybe a center. We don't know what's going on with Frank. He's banged up every single year. We don't know how much he's got left in the tank, so we got to get prepared.
Yeah, man. I think you're dead on with it. I think that when Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell started this rebuild, or as he said, retool, they started it through the trenches, right?
Penny Sewell.
I was just about to say, you knocked it out of the park. Penei Sewell, right? We started this thing with our O-line, and he's been an anchor. And if you're at the game, so you see the little snippets before the game, what do you see? You see Sewell with everybody around him, getting everybody pumped up and riled up. This offensive line absolutely drives this team. And I think that this is just I know that it's not sexy for most people, but it's sexy for me. Both of these guys that we're going to talk about today are guys that I could see fitting right in with the Detroit Lions. Steve, you want to tell them who we're talking about first?
Well, since you mentioned Penei Sewell, we got to go back to his alma mater, Oregon Duck. Jackson Powers Johnson, kind of a guy you put me onto not too long ago. I'll let you kind of lead it, because this is your guy.
Listen, Brad got me all hyped up yesterday, man, when he had his roll-up press conference, and he was, like I said, giving a little bit of that secret sauce, a little bit of extra. And instead of just giving us the shirts that say salty or the villain or whatever, he started telling us and breaking down what he's looking for. And some of the things that we already knew and some things that I didn't know. But when I looked at Jackson Powers Johnson, after the Senior Bowl was really when he jumped off the screen to me as somebody special. I kind of wish that he didn't have such a good Senior Bowl, because now he might get drafted a little bit earlier, because he was not at the top of the interior lineman list. He was more in the middle of the pack. Now he's bumped up, but I'm still hoping at pick 29, he's a guy that could potentially be available for us. But he is an absolute beast in the run game. I feel like just like you talked about, Steve, with Frank Ragnow being banged up and not knowing what's going to happen with Jonah Jackson or Graham Glasgow, we need another interior D lineman, or the offensive lineman that we can depend on, right? And I think he fits right in, because he can play center or he can play guard. So let's say Frank comes back for one more year and he comes in and plays guard next year, but the following year we need to move him over to center. With Graham getting a little bit older and not knowing what that situation is going to be, and I feel like playing center is a little bit tougher. Maybe we could keep Graham at guard for a few seasons and then just move right into that most important, or second most important position, in my opinion, on the offensive line, and have Powers play that position. Great in the run game, super athlete, can get out and block on screens, and he is relentless and nasty.
So I'll say this about Graham Glasgow. When he had to play center for a couple games, I think our offensive line had a slight drop off. I think Graham's more of a fit at guard. So if something were to happen, could you see Jackson Powers Johnson being a true full-time everyday center?
Steve, I think Jackson Powers Johnson could be our center for a decade. That's how good he is. He plays physical. He plays athletic. He can do anything that you need him to do, from the pass game to the run game. He fits our culture. I even watched some interviews of him at the Senior Bowl. Some of the key things that he said: he loves football. He loves it. He loves it. Not it's a business decision because he just happened to be a huge guy who's athletic. He loves to play the game. If you watch his film, look him up on YouTube. He is driving guys to the ground. He's playing through the whistle. He's a great double teamer. He can come off that double team and go get a linebacker. He's just a guy that I could see fitting right into what we're trying to do here. We're trying to have a tough, nasty, gritty offensive line that drives our team, protects Jared Goff, because we know we got a guy back there that's not trying to run around and go run for first downs. So I think that he could be the center for the next decade. If Frank decided to take off because of his body's failing him, he could step right in. And if not, he'll just play guard.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I said, it's just a position need. And I think when draft time comes around, I think the Detroit Lions need an ugly draft. And I mean that in a good way. They need to just fill the trenches, fix the guard position, add some D-line. Obviously, we need a corner, but we don't know what's going to happen in free agency. We kind of did a free agency show with some people we really like, Jalen Johnson, L'Jarius Sneed. We've talked about some D linemen that are available in free agency. So assuming we go out and we're right on free agents and we sign a corner and we sign a defensive end, you're probably looking at an ugly draft of guards, tackles, backups, maybe a wide receiver, maybe a kicker on day 3. I think the Detroit Lions need an ugly draft, and that it's a good thing. It's a good thing when I say that.
Yeah, I agree with you, man. You when you talk about that too, I think our depth. Like I think you're gonna see depth get drafted this year. You're gonna see guys that are in positions of need, and you're gonna see guys that are just like he said, being prepared to play in December. How do you prepare? By having guys that can step in and be developed over the season. So if you get a guy banged up and you've had a guy that's been developing, he can just step right in and hopefully not miss a beat. So
yeah, but before we got another kid to talk about, a local kid. So when we did a draft prospect show last week, and we put down in the comment, we asked you guys, put some names down in the comments. We're going to talk about. This was a kid that was mentioned in the comments more than once. Guard from Michigan down the road, Zach Zinter, who unfortunately broke his leg in the Ohio State game. But I think Zach Zinter is a first-round talent. I think that broken leg might slide him down to the second round, unfortunately. I don't know how healed up he'll be. He's not at the Senior Bowl. He might not be available for the Combine, but he will be back by the regular season. A kid who's second team All-Big Ten as a sophomore, 2-time first team All Big Ten as a junior and senior, and a unanimous All-American. As a Big Ten offensive guard, it's as good as they come.
Yeah.
And what I like about Zach Zinter is Michigan's kind of built like the Detroit Lions. What do they want to do? They want to run the ball. Zach Zinter was the bread and butter who they ran behind the majority of the year. So how do you feel about him as possibly, like I said, maybe a second rounder if he slips to 61, or maybe we have to move up a little bit?
Honestly, I think we're going to see Zach go in the third round not because of his ability. I think we're going to see him because of the injury. And I know that I heard that he's going to be ready for his pro day potentially, and he's going to be ready to work out for guys. But I don't think that he's going to be near 100%. So, excuse me. Sorry, just dying on air.
Only one of us can die here.
I know, right? But I don't think that due to his injury, that he's going to be a guy that's going to be drafted where he probably would have been drafted, which I probably would have been into the first round, early second round. I think we might see him slip to round 3 or round 4. So he could be a sneaky guy that we could get later on in a draft. And just like you're saying, we might see a nasty draft, an ugly draft where we're getting guards and defensive tackles, or instead of the sexy positions that guys want to see, running backs, receivers, and corners, So, yeah, I think that he's going to slip. And hopefully, like Brian Branch, just slip right into our hands.
I don't know if he's fallen to the 3rd or 4th round. That's a deep fall. I'm dying over here.
Sorry, buddy. Yeah. It's remained to be seen, man. But I think it's going to be tough for him to perform at a high level, man. After that injury, that injury was late in the season, man. So it's one of those things.
Yeah, I don't see him falling to round 3 or 4. Second, I could see. When I look at his accolades and what he does, I don't think he's a first round pick anymore. I think he's kind of get the Hendon Hooker treatment in a way. I know Hendon's a quarterback who had a catastrophic ACL injury, and Zach broke his leg. But I don't think he's a first rounder. I could see him definitely going in the second round. He's just too damn good. Just when you second team all pros and first team all pros and unanimous all Americans just don't grow on trees.
Yeah, I think it's the position though too, like position of guard, and he doesn't play center. I believe. I think he's straight up plays guard.
Straight guard.
So I think that it's a position that's not valued as high as some of their other positions. I look at a guy like Steve Avila. Steve Avila was one of the best guards in the draft last year, and he slipped to the second round. You know what I mean? And he's out there an absolute beast for the Rams, I believe. I think he's with the Rams, isn't he?
Yeah.
So that being said, you know, if you got a guy that's banged up a little bit, I think he's one of those Brad Holmes type of guys, to where you get a guy that's been banged up and you draft him and you know you let him, give him a little bit of time to heal up, get to 100% and do his thing. But position and him being a little bit banged up is why I have him slipping. But hey, these Michigan guys, I cheer for him. So hopefully he gets drafted earlier and he gets his bag. Hopefully you're right.
So yeah, guys, talked about two guards. It's not a sexy position, but it's one that the Detroit Lions need. We're kind of, like I said, thinking we're moving on from Jonah Jackson. We think Graham's going to be back. Hopefully Frank comes back. So we're going to have a vacancy at guard, and we want to keep this O-line going. So we got to have one of them quote unquote ugly drafts. This is assuming, like I said, like we both said, free agency starts. We hope we go out and sign a defensive end. We hope we sign a cornerback. That could kind of give us the luxury of having an ugly draft. An ugly draft is a good thing. That means you're just like Will said, you're drafting for depth. You're drafting for a position of need that might not be sexy. I know a lot of people want to see the quarterbacks, the wide receivers, the running backs, the skill position players, but games are won in the trenches. Plain and simple. That's where the ugliness goes down, and you got to be the ugliest team on the block sometimes, and that's a good thing to have. So leave a comment down below if there's some other guys you want us to talk about. We could talk about quarterbacks. We don't really need a quarterback. We already talked about JJ McCarthy. People had not nice things to say about that. We could talk a quarterback. We're not going to, keep it something that the Detroit Lions need. Like, we don't need a running back. All right. We're not going to talk about Blake Corum. He's not going to be a Detroit Lion. We're not going to draft a guy in the round 2 to be a running back 3. It's just not going to happen. So leave some names down there. We'll look it over. We'll see who fits and we'll talk about it. Hit that like button and please, for the love of God, help me out and subscribe. We'll be back later with some more content.
Peace.